Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the Man at YouTube with another modelling video. First, I have to make a quick apology. I put this video out 2 weeks ago about questions and answers. I am a week late, though I needed more preparation than I expected for the Model Expo. That happened last weekend, and I'm working on a video and other bits and pieces for it, so look out this coming Monday. It will be posted. Now I shall answer questions, but first I had a chat to one of the members at the Mecca workshop at the last meeting. His name's Brian, and he came up with a very interesting problem, and I'll talk about it and tell you guys the answer I gave him. He primes his model kits with automotive primer in a rattle can, which is perfectly fine. But he found that the paint was running and being really thin and translucent in some areas, and had these small spots exposing the primer once he applied acrylic on top, which did not give him a desirable finish. What happened was, with primer in a can, it is extremely thick compared to the Tamiya variant, and what he did was only shook it for a short period of time and applied it straight to the surface. This did not allow for all the components of the primer, the thinner, the aerosol, and the binder that binds the primer to the surface well enough, and he only had an incomplete and not quite drying or setting properly primer on the surface. If you're spraying anything with rattle cans, you need to, at least for a minimum of 2 minutes, and a whole 2 minutes, not just, I think it's 2 minutes, shaking the can. And if anything that's not so regularly used in the hobby, like very heavy duty, very thick, cheap automotive primer, which is great for filling scratches and whatnot, fantastic in that regards and imperfections. Shake it for at least a good 3 minutes, and then apply very thinly from far away, good 30 centimeters or more. And that should give you an ideal finish where the paint will perfectly adhere to the surface and not slide off. Also, in the Mech Model Workshop video 85, Mr. Masking Soul Neo review, someone came up with an interesting question, and I'm very happy to entertain it. Just wondering if this is the perfect solution to paint over the gold parts of the Sinanju, high grade or master grade, I assume. It's got these very fine trims of raised detail throughout the model, and some people that don't really do a lot of fine hand painting would struggle with. My recommendation is spray painting it gold, hand painting this, and then spray painting another finish is extremely tedious and long. I wouldn't do it. That's very lengthy. What I do recommend is touch up on your hand painting skills. Purchase a really fine 1mm or 0.5mm soft hair paintbrush from your local art shop, a lot cheaper than model shops, and mix your paint well and do your very best to apply it. Have some sort of sharpened end eraser or a larger brush on standby if you make a mistake, or tissue. If you ever make a mistake, wipe it off immediately. With the gold bit, just do it with acrylic or water-based once all the other paints are finished. And if you mess up, wash it off and just keep trying again and again until you have a nicer finish. For a first timer, it is equally tedious, but at the end you'll walk away with a skill that you should be fairly happy with, and the next time such a challenge does occur, you'll be able to do it. I did have such raised detail on some of the unicorn sleeve bits and pieces that has the collar detail and the wrist detail, and that's what I exactly did, hand painted it. Now, straight into the actual questions. Gohan 11S. I hand paint my pilot figure, mobile suit details, with the same lacquers I airbrush them with, Mr. Colour. I was wondering, would using a retardant make it significantly easier? Also, I recently heard that Mr. Sol Neo was for resin white, Mr. Sol R is for plastic. Do you have any experience of Mr. Sol R? And if so, how does it compare with Neo? I have used Neo and it has been so difficult to work with that I'm hoping R is a better experience. Straight to your first question. I do hand paint with lacquer, and I've done a tutorial about this a while ago. If you mix it sufficiently with thinner, with some retardant, it dries a lot slower and is significantly a lot easier to hand paint small or large detail, and with its slow drying time does iron out its own streaks and whatnot. If you paint especially synthetic lacquers, if you paint it on with a brush without any thinning, and if the paint jar is had dry, and if you do leave any streaks, what you apply is what you get. So definitely retardant does make a big difference. Just only a couple of drops, and thinner of course. Now, in regards to Mr. Sol Neo and Mr. Sol R, I haven't heard, I've seen tutorials of people using Mr. Sol Neo on resin for white areas such as eyes of an anime figure or whatever. I rarely see Mr. Sol R on the shelves. I haven't been able to purchase it or buy it. But realistically, it sits on a painted surface. You apply more paint and then remove it. Once primed, it should make no difference what surface it sits on. So the rumours of for resin or styrene or metal seems a tad weird to me. I would imagine the two products are different. Maybe one of them is easier to apply. I do agree Mr. Sol Neo is very difficult to use, but in my video you see me apply a little bit with my own personal paintbrush and not the brush that it actually comes with, and I regularly seal the container, shake and apply again while it's quite fresh. If you apply any half-dried bits, especially next to onto other dry bits, you're constantly lifting up the masks. I recommend checking out the video again and just practice. I used to have a lot of trouble with it at first, but the trick is to use it when it's absolutely fresh. So seal the bottle, shake it repetitively, apply a little bit, keep repeating that process, and eventually you will have to replace the products that can go off before you actually use it. Or if you feel that you want to try Mr. Sol R next and it's a better result, feel free. I don't personally have any experience with it, and if it works out to be a lot easier, please share with the community. Next question. Can you give us some tips when hand painting with a brush on Gundam kits? Like different techniques for weathering, different shading effects that can be done with a brush. Now, even though I can colour in and I could do some basic hand painting skills, but I'm not at the level as, let's say, some of the champion wargamers are. I would like to dwell in that information. The videos I do have out there so far with a brush is just colouring in surfaces with the main types of paint, acrylic, water-based, enamel and lacquers. Other techniques I could demonstrate in future and do tutorials on would probably be things like detailing and dry brushing and probably blending, though that's going to have to be for another day. Tutorials are a bit time consuming and I've got a couple on the go, so at this stage I can't make any promises. But there are some amazing hand painting tutorials and guides out there, especially for figure painting, which you can apply on other surfaces and types of model kits. So that would probably be worth having a look around if you desire an answer now. Amazing books out there, a little on the pricey side, but from what I've been explained, very well worth the investment. Next question. I'm new to gunpla modelling. What top coat do you use or recommend to use? Pledge Future Floor acrylic floor polish, Tamiya lacquer clear coat, Humbrol clear coat, etc. I don't know if they're the ones that are available to you, but I'll tell you guys the ones I personally like to use. The generic best is definitely the Tamiya acrylics via airbrush. They come with a clear gloss, a semi-clear, and their clear matte. The clear matte is fairly newish because they used to just have matte, and I am actually planning on doing a video on that, how to dull glossy surfaces to a matte finish. It's quite a nice product. For just general gloss coating or top coating, Pledge Future Floor if you live in the United States, Indonesia, anywhere that you could get your hands on this product. Mind you, the label has changed in the past few years. Absolute wonderful product. I'm very lucky to have my hands on a bottle. It actually does not need thinning. You just apply straight into your airbrush, lower the PSI and spray on. Tamiya lacquer clear coat that comes out of a rattle can. I have not used that for many years. It's very expensive if you're using rattle cans. Testers makes the best top coat, especially dull coat. And Humbrol clear acrylic coat I've never used before, but Humbrol is a very well-known name. Very good line of paint. I used to use their enamels. I trust that that would be also a good clear coat to use hand painting or airbrushing. So the ones you brought up are all very good. I absolutely love Future Floor, but Tamiya, in my opinion, would have to be the best, especially when you're applying different techniques of weathering and pigment weathering on a matte Tamiya surface. Gunpla KT. How do you create chrome effects in painting? Like, it looks like, I don't know how to say that, a Chokin toy or type 100, I'll go again. How do you create chrome effects in painting, like Hakushiki, a gold chrome effect? And can you paint polystyrene clear effect parts on Gundam? With that really nice chrome effect, it's called the candy effect or candy coating. You can find tutorials on that. To replicate it, and it's not exactly the same as the Bandai special coating kits. It comes pretty close. You get a really fine lacquer chrome paint. Alclad 2 makes the best on the market, though the stuff from Mr. Hobby, their special premium chrome paints, will also suffice. So you prime your kit, you paint an undercoat of gloss black in lacquer or Tamiya enamel. You apply very finely the lacquer chrome colour, and then you apply a clear colour on top. So the Hakushiki being yellow, you'll spray clear yellow, but you could do clear red, blue, and you get that candy look. It's very bright, very shiny. Top it off with a clear coat. The only catch with these chrome effects or painting chrome effects is any sort of mistake you have on the model, like a split seam or any craters, nub marks, scratches, will be visible through the paint. So you need to do lots of surface preparation, seam lines filled, sanded back sufficiently, nubs, mistakes removed, microfiller primer used, and you'll get a very nice and sufficient finish that you should be proud of. Now, painting clear styrene, very possible. You can do a solid colour and make it look normal, primed of course. If you're not priming, you can do shade effects or gradient effects where you paint a bit of it with an airbrush and it looks like it's fading from clear to a solid colour. Use a few very strong clear coats to protect that, clean the piece. And you can also paint clear pieces with clear paint. So if it's just clear, you can make it clear green, blue. If it's a clear colour and you mix other colours with it, you could do some pretty cool effects. Also, painting silver underneath clear pieces can make it look very interesting, very cool, especially if it's a clear coloured piece. So yes, you can, if no primer used. A couple of layers of clear over it to protect it. Next, Joanne P. How do you paint, chip and weather a model using a paintbrush? To paint, chip models, I've seen a few techniques out there. Some people actually purchase a silver pencil and draw it in. To do paint chipping effects, other people have used a tiny piece of foam off a sponge, dip it and use different parts of it to make tiny paint chips. Or if you have a fine enough paintbrush, you can get reference material, a picture of a paint chipped model or a piece of rusted or chipped metal, and try to replicate it on the surface of your kit. To weather it further, you can use earthy or dull colours, and using a wider brush, use the dry brushing technique where you remove most of the paint off your brush and lightly slide it over the surface of the kit to create either mud building up or paint scraping off or rust developing, any sort of effect like that. So it can be possible. You just need to buy the correct type of brushes and apply them in the correct manner. So a small brush for chips and a wide or larger brush using the dry brushing technique, removing most of the paint off the brush and sliding across the surface for weathering. More is, or less is more, and you want to really take your time, and it can very easily look sloppy if you do a quick job via hand painting weathering. Though doing it slowly and paying attention can create nice results. Sometimes I like highlighting the edges with a different colour paint or a darker paint like black to just give them more definition and make them stand out. I've been doing that to a few of my models. Lon242. Hi Alan. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with these Q&A videos. Here are my questions. And there's oh my, this individual's got a few questions. One, I'm fairly new to the hobby and have built a few military models. I still find it difficult to glue and attach smaller parts onto the model, such as the controls of plane cockpits and the smaller, more fragile parts of tank kits. Do you have any tips on building military models, especially kits with many small detail parts? What tools and adhesives do you use? I'm using standard Tamiya tweezers, regular super glue, which dries very quick and leaves little room for error, as well as Revell plastic glue, which is opposite and dries quite slowly. Any advice would help. It sounds like you're on the right path. You've actually got all the tools that I would, funnily enough, have recommended. Small pieces can be very troublesome. I personally have a lot of trouble with them, especially that has very little surface contact, such as, you got like a pole or an antenna or a control piece. What I normally like to do is apply cement on the tiny surface detail, and you'll sometimes find with the tiniest amount of cement and holding tweezers, you can make it adhere and sort of stick to the plastic. And once you've got it standing or freestanding, this small piece, so you got your control panel and it just managed to be sitting on the surface, and you can remove your tweezers, but it's too weak, and if you touch it's going to fall over. Get your super glue out and apply a small amount on a bit of cardboard or a pallet, and lift up drops of the super glue with a toothpick and apply it to the base of the piece, and that will dry very, very quickly. So it's barely stuck there with a tiny bit of plastic cement, and then supported around the actual piece with super glue, and that should dry on nice and strong. That's a little trick I do with very small pieces, though I haven't done a lot of small piece military kits for a little while now. Though the last dragon kit I worked on, which had about 1 billion small pieces, it was just patience. A bit of super glue, stuck the piece on, and I literally just held the piece there with the tweezers for like a couple of minutes until it hardens on. It can be a bit of a messy process. Mistakes can be made, but with practice and every military model you do, you'll get a little better at it, and the results should look a lot nicer. So you're definitely on the right path. Just a little more practice and just a little more patience holding the pieces down. Question number 2 from the same gentleman. Have you built any model cars before, particularly the showroom high gloss type? What are some of your experiences building this type of model? Funnily enough, I have never built a model car before. My brother has built a few. I know that they're a case of paint then assemble. You'll have the chassis all assembled, the body of the car separated, and then you put all the detail, paint the top and bottom half, hand paint all the little controls and stuff, spray the main body, which a lot of surface preparation come in play, as I explained with the high gloss chrome effects and the candy effects. So lots of surface preparation. Finish all the detail of the car, glue in the windows, and then apply the main body to the chassis. It's a thing of patience. A form of modelling I'm not very familiar with. I watch people like Dr. Cranky have a go at it. If you do have further questions of car modelling, he would be the best to PM, as that's been his forte for like over 20 years, or how long he has been modelling. He is a master of the craft of cars, and the perfect gentleman to talk about that. But besides what I just unloaded, that's absolutely everything I know about car modelling without ever attempting it myself. Though once done right, they look absolutely wonderful, and there's literally like no room for error. I know with Dr. Cranky's work, he'll build 2-3 cars at the same time, doing different effects, and he says it's not unusual for 1 or 2 of the projects for something to go wrong or motivation lost or something, but at least he'll come out with one model that is happy with. I don't know if that's the way to go about it, but that's the trick of the beast with car modelling. 3. Do you plan on making any diorama guides in the future? Your instructional method on building models is great, and I'd love to see guides on creating dioramas. Thank you. I do have, if you do a lot of digging in my channel, so I don't know how new of a subscriber you are, I have built a hanger diorama a long time ago on my first or second year on YouTube, and I did a very small base for a Gundam on a coffee lid, and I've also did some touches in the Chisei project working on the diorama. So, and of course the last Gundam Builder World Cup. Some of them might not be labelled as diorama builds, but those work in progress series for the Gundam Builders World Cup kit does have instructional and talkative videos about dioramas. But in future I will do more diorama videos. I might even do another diorama tutorial. I'd love to get into things like water effects and fountains and buildings and houses and stuff. So very possible for this on this channel in future. Right now, no, but I have touched on the topic, and I will again in the future. So just have a dig in the channel. Samuel, I think you've done one before, but can you make another video on the clip holders you use and maybe another alternative that can be used to hold my clips? I use the craft styrofoam for plastic flowers, but overuse makes it very weak. I remember I used to use the craft styrofoam for flowers a long time ago. You add water and you stick flowers in there, but constantly stabbing it can make it weak. I have bought the corrugated cardboard that Japanese modelers like to use, and I found I think I've had them for about the first batch for 3-4 years. I bought another batch just recently. They do wear out, but they're only starting to wear out now from my constant use and abuse, though they still stand freely quite nicely. I recommend them for sure. The clips, I have done a mounting tutorial, though I do plan on doing a proper formal review. It's actually on my list of videos to make, so very interesting that we're thinking alike. And there is a new brand of clip holders that I've just recently got my hands on, which will be covered in the review. And the alternative, which I use, I don't use, but I've seen other people use, are bulldog clips. They happen to sit on a triangle corner, which on the hand grip on one end, and you hold the piece on the other end, so they're freestanding, the piece is not touching the ground. But because it's like a tripod, you do not need any bases, styrofoam, corrugated cardboard. They just lay all over the place on the table or floor or whatnot. Very, very good technique and super cheap just by buying bulldog clips at a stationery shop. Also, speaking of the devil, Dr. Cranky, how many built models do you have in your collection? I could see some of them grouped on the shelf behind you, but I get a feeling you have plenty more. Keep up the good work, my friend. Cheers, Dr. Cranky. Thank you very much, Dr. Cranky. I have built a lot of models over the years. I've started when I was a very young teenager, the odd 35th scale second-hand military kit or aircraft. Some of them were done appallingly, some of them okay. I have not kept them all. I think a few of them have been trashed, but one or two of them has been stored away. So from my teenage years, I'm guessing about 30 incomplete military kits. I sort of got into the whole Warhammer craze by the high school years, like a lot of friends. I bought a lot of miniatures and tanks, and more than half of them are not even painted, stored away, though I do have an entire Imperial Guard army and a few tanks and half a Lord of the Rings army. So I'm guessing I have probably about 150 miniatures painted, maybe 200, including things like tanks and small vehicles. They've been packed away, not the best work. I probably hope they'll never come out to show the light of day again. And then afterwards I got back into Gundam, back into military, getting into the small scale tanks again. I've probably done about 30-40, including smaller weird ones, wargaming ones, whatnot. About 2-3 aircraft. And I'm guessing, I'm not 100% sure how many Gundams. The half scale ones I've done about 10. And Gundams in general, probably 20, 25, whatever's on my Facebook page. Now, if a lot of you would like to see my previous work, military Gundams, without going through my YouTube channel, my Facebook account or page, which I've got in the link down below, has a portfolio folder with all my finished model photos on there. It has 99% of all my Gundam works. I think it's missing one or two that I have to dig through the archives. The majority of my military kits, my 3 aircraft, and my absolute latest before I left wargaming, a couple of Lord of the Rings figures that I actually am pretty proud of. So a lot of my latest works are there. Unfortunately, the shelving back there is very small, very limited, so I pack a lot of my models away in boxes in the roof, the finished ones, in hopes that I will get a larger place one day and display them in a glass cabinet. And I've also got a couple of models, about 4 or 5, on loan to hobby shops and whatnot. So I can't give you a number like 100, 200 models, but off the very top of my memory, that's probably all the models I've made over my modelling career. Thank you very much, Dr. Cranky, and thank you very much to everybody else that has submitted an answer. I hope this video was of help to people asking questions. A lot of hand painting questions, so looks like my next batch of tutorials after the Gunpla Builders World Cup is going to start looking at the basics and hand painting again. So I'm going to do some bigger hand painted kits, weathering, chipping, everything only by hand, and taking you guys through the journey. I'll ask for a little patience in regard to those videos, because I've got 2 months until the Gunpla Builders World Cup, a tad of a rest, and then I think I will crack out a model just for hand painting and maybe a little more rattle can work. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, until next time, I'll say it one more time, the Facebook group, I sometimes post work in progress pictures and other things that don't make it on the channel. You get to see a sneak peek of a model before it hits the YouTube channel. And also at the very bottom link, the PHDmanchild. It is a rude channel, anime reviews and whatnot. I'm going to probably do a video for it again, since it's been inactive for a very long time. And next Monday, the Model Expo review and pictures from that event. Thank you guys, stay tuned, and we'll catch you guys later.